Professional real estate investors are a different breed. We're not afraid to go all in and take educated risks to build stronger businesses and help our families live better lives. This is the FlipNerd Professional Real Estate Investor Show, and I'm your host, Mike Hambright. Each week, I host a new episode live and bring you America's top real estate investors as guests. Let's start today's show. Hey, everybody. So this is the first show of, this is the first day of your new life, actually. So this is the first show in the series, the new series that we call the Professional Real Estate Investor Show on FlipNerd. So we've recorded over 1,500 podcasts over the past 6.5 years. And I've interviewed tons of great people. Honestly, having this podcast has changed my life, just the relationships I've been able to make and the network I've been able to build and the people I've been able to help. And not just me, like my friends that are coming and helping people too, and hopefully changing lives in real estate. Excited to launch this new show for you. We actually film it live. We syndicate it across our FlipNerd channels, and so you can get it anywhere. But if you want to watch it live and be able to ask some questions and engage a little bit, make sure you join the Professional Real Estate Investor Network Facebook group. That's a mouthful, but just go to flipnerd.com/professional. You'll get redirected to that group, and you can request access. If you're an experienced investor, if you're a new investor, we're just not going to let you into the group, honestly, because I have a soft spot for new people and want to help you get started. But this group is basically reserved just for professional investors that are helping one another out, kind of a little bit of a network there. So appreciate you guys a bunch. Excited to have my buddy Roddy join us today. Roddy, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. I swear to God, this is like a deja vu. Didn't we just do this?
Yeah, I think we might have. It feels like we did to me too. So a little inside joke there for you, those of you that are watching this after the fact. But yeah, something to do with freaking hit the record button or something. But that's cool, buddy. So we were talking about right before we started recording, we were talking about just this evolution of getting educated on being a better rehabber, because a lot of folks have just done it, including me. I mean, hundreds of rehabs and lots of mistakes and lots of expensive mistakes. And that's part of the problem, I think, is when you have big margins, like sometimes you're like, wow, I was supposed to make 40, it ended up being 30. And you're like, and everybody's like, boo-hoo, you only made 30 grand, right? But, $10,000 mistake made over and over again. $10,000 made one time, that's an expensive mistake. But you could save yourself a lot of money by doing this stuff right?
Well, use the analogy, right? Your $10,000 mistake could easily be a $10,000 change order.
Yeah.
Take your point, still a loss. But you grow and you learn.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's weird how a lot of us, as real estate investors, we were talking about this a bit ago, you're willing to make this several $100,000 investment. Often it's not even your money. You're borrowing it from somebody else. But either way, you're still responsible for those funds, right? You have to be a good steward of that. And we're just throwing a couple $100,000 investment and hoping it all works out. And somebody told me about a contractor, but I'd never worked with this guy, or whatever it might be. Like, we're so eager to build better lives and build better businesses that we take these. They don't seem like risk, but if you were to explain that to anybody else, like, yeah, I'm going to take $100,000. I'm going to hire this guy I never met before, and he's hopefully going to do a good job for me, and hopefully I'm going to make money. Most people think that's effing nuts, right?
I don't think people realize, at the end of the day, it's all risk, right? But at the end of the day, think of yourself as just a consumer, right? Mike and his wife in your home, and you want to do a basement remodel, your dream basement, or you want to do your dream kitchen for the wifey, right? What do you know? It's no different. Just because you're a real estate investor doesn't mean that you know, like, none of this translates over. And you think, okay, I'm going to go on Google or Angie's List or whatever, and I'm going to find an A-level contractor to come out and do their thing. And you, like everybody else, has the confidence that presumably that individual is going to do what they say they're going to do, right? So even at the retail level, contractors make mistakes. It's not a perfect industry by any means. Construction's hard. Yep. And it's challenging. It's very much like medicine. You are diagnosing and you're prognosing and you're tinkering away at things to make them function again. And that's what construction is all about. Remodel goes up until you go to structure. When you hit structure, it becomes renovation. So there's different levels to it. Different contractors handle different types of projects. Just because you're a GC doesn't mean you can go build a skyscraper. There's different types of GCs for that. Right. So and just knowing a lot of basics, I guess, what I've learned with all these different investors. I've helped thousands over the years. And the highest levels to the novice. And it's really no different. If you don't know how to rehab, you just don't know how to rehab. And it starts with contracting, understanding how contracting works, and then how you prepare for contracting and how contractors make money. It's not so much as where do I find a contractor. It's more about, did you even set it up? Have you considered about, you have to plan. like anything, when you did this whole thing, right? The Professional Real Estate Investor Network, you planned that, you thought about that, you cultivated that, you thought about it day in, day out, how it should be, who should be in it, and why. You planned for that. This call, you realize you didn't record the earlier part, but you know what? We went back but we did that because you didn't plan for that. But that's how easy it is to make these mistakes in rehab. It doesn't matter how big and bad you are or how new you are. Yeah. Mistakes are going to happen. I make mistakes all the time. But at the end of the day, I continue to evolve because I'm studying construction all the time. Yesterday, I was consulting a client we have out of New York, and we have to really work on his entire business model, not just rehabbing, because construction division is a piece of the investment company as a whole. I was looking at some of his deals and I said, you know where I think we're missing? I said, I think you might be buying wrong. Not terribly wrong, but maybe your buyers should know how to estimate. I'm like, do they have any construction background? No, most buyers don't. I know that. And I said, why don't you give me 3 training sessions with them? I said, let me talk to the buyers and I'll create a whole model and process for them and teach them how to evaluate a property so that they can actually ask good construction type questions that will get intel out of the seller, right? And let the seller keep blabbing away and sharing information. And I started teaching them how systems work. Like when the plumbing does this, this, and this, and when the electric does this, and when the HVAC does this, and this, so that they're listening for the seller to keep giving them more intel. If they know how the HVAC system works, then they can presume, okay, I need to replace it, repair it, or certify it, right? You make that note, jot that down. Because everything you do, right, as you know, everything you have to do, the more work you have to do in the rehab, the deeper you got to go in the deal, right? But that's your leverage to go deeper in the deal, right? You got to do the roofs and the windows and the mechanicals. Well, shit, you got to go deep as hell. Yeah. But if you teach the buyers that way, and that's why, just to my point, I'm like, it's all about understanding that rehabbing doesn't just affect construction. Of course it does, but it affects the entire business. And if you can create a business where any new staff, any 1099, anybody you bring in as you grow, if they have the ability to at least learn a little bit about rehab functions, it will help their position and their SOP be that much stronger. And, training buyers is something that's brand new to us. We just started doing that this year, and it's making an impact because now these buyers can call me and text me and say, hey, man, I'm about to look at this deal. Can I send it to you? Absolutely. Send it to me. I'll look at it and say, ask questions that revolve around the foundation. I see cracks and leaks everywhere. Make sure you get intel on that because that's going to be a hidden problem. It's going to add a lot of money, and it's going to kill the rehab later. And helping them create levels of rehab. So when they're going through their checklist, they're like, is this a hotel? Can I get this done for 10 grand? Is it level 2 going to 20? Is it level 3 going to 30 and so on? And we create levels for them and with them so they know that, listen, you're only doing $50,000 rehabs. That's the margin. After that, you're losing, right? So you can't buy properties if it's more than 50,000. So let's create what 50,000 looks like. What does 1 to 10 look like? What does 10 to 20 look like? And so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, the buyer's like, yeah, it's making sense now. And all that does is make them better at negotiating because they have leverage now and they have the construction leverage to buy better, go deeper. And then when that happens, that property will flow through the process of your company until it gets ready for production and goes to the project manager and all that other good stuff. And knowing that you bought right gives you the advantage to rehab right. You can't reverse that.
Yeah, if you don't buy your house right, you're screwed from the beginning, right? So I think, one of the things that I appreciate about you and everything you're doing and helping the community, and there's a number of other people in this space, John Martinez, Donald Ross, like a lot of people that have been big givers, sharing their knowledge. It's like that's one of the biggest evolutions I've had in my career over the last 12 or 13 years now is initially I tried to do everything myself, tried to be cheap, which is inherent in real estate investors. Like we're trying to buy cheap, we're trying to rehab cheap, we're trying to going to look at seconds and surplus to see if we could get a discounted toilet, like all kinds of crap without really, honestly, early on for a lot of people. And if you're listening to this and you resonate with this, like learn from this is your time is very important. It's very valuable. You can be doing more deals with that time or God forbid, enjoying your life. So educate yourself, educate your team, build a team, educate yourself. Like otherwise you're just in this job and you're in this rat race that you're never going to get out of. If you don't learn how to do things better and you don't surround yourself with the right people that know how to take your business to the next level and learn from, then you're at a serious disadvantage. And best case scenario, you have, even if you're doing well, you have a high paying job, right?
100%. Yeah. But you hit the key thing here. It's about time, man. As we evolved, I realized I want my time back. I put in that the first 10 years, it was 24/7, 365. I mean, even my wife and a lot of people that are going to listen to this call that are at this level understand the dynamic between the marriage. We weren't married at this time period. We were together though. And she's like, I remember my wife sitting there on the couch and I'm being real right now. She's like, is this what it is? And I looked at her and said, what does that mean? And she's like, is this what it is? She's like, you're here, but you're not here. She's like, you're here physically, but you're not here mentally. You're always working.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm building something. I'm like, I know where I'm going. I said, give me time. I'm building something. And she did. Obviously, we're married. We're happy. Everything's great. But at that time period, she was helping me realize I'm infatuated with this, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't spending time, not even for myself. I wasn't taking care of myself, let alone take care of anybody else, right?
Yep.
So I'm glad, though, that all of that happened then, because that was before the kids and it was before we got married. But it opened my eyes to say, okay, if I do have an objective here, which was I always wanted to start consulting and helping you guys, the investors. I want to help you guys. It's not even close to fair. We're playing two different games on two different fields. It's not even fair across the country, right? And I said, well, now's the time. And when she had told me, she's like, oh, guess what? I'm pregnant, blah, blah, blah. I said, this is the time. And we launched literally while she's pregnant with our twins. That's when we launched the Rehab Depot. And I went all out. I left a multi-million-dollar construction company, closed it. And I said, I'm going to become a consultant. And my wife's like, are you fucking nuts? I said, yeah, I am. This is what I do, right? And I went after it. And I didn't know the first thing about consulting, let alone coaching, let alone putting together a curriculum, let alone building an academy, let alone running a boot camp. But I was committed to wanting my time back. And that's when I said, if I can build this, and it's almost like stopping and saying, you've heard that old saying, people put that meme out where like, if you spend the next 6 months grinding, you'll spend the next 60 years chilling. And I kept saying that to myself, if I spend the next 6 months grinding, I got this. And it worked. But I stayed focused. I said, by the time these kids are born, this has got to be making money. I had that's 9 months. So I was like, I have a timeline. I have a quota that I have to hit. And well, God bless us all, it worked, right? But time is everything. You hit that on the head. It was all about time. Yeah. And if you know how to rehab, you know to leverage your time.
If you're listening to this and you're an investor, I mean, Roddy has a couple of different businesses. I have a couple of different businesses. If you're just a straight up investor and that's all you do, and that's great, and that's where a lot of you are that's where a lot of you are, right? Is your version of that is building a team, because ultimately, it's almost like if you had a job, if you had the regular job, you work and you get paid, you work and you get paid, you work and you get paid. There's no residual, right? The only way you can get a residual when you're an entrepreneur, well, I guess you could create some product that you get royalties on and you sell it forever, right? But for most of us, it's building a team that even if you take a day off or a week off or you're not there, the business is still running and you're still making money from that. So sounds like Roddy, you just explained it here. You had a kind of a leap off point of when your kids were coming and you kind of knew that, okay, this is the time to jump off. But for a lot of you, like, don't wait for some life thing to come up, like kids, marriage, health issues, God forbid, any of those things, right? Like, be pushing hard right now every day to say, am I building something that I could step out of?
Right.
And you know, let's be honest, like, I'm not saying it's something that you could walk away from and you're gone for a year and your company's still making money and all that stuff. I'm not, that is an awesome goal to have. It's not as realistic as like being able to go have lunch with your family, watch your kids' sports, like do all those things, walk away for a week or two, whatever. That's like, get there first and then worry about being able to step out of your business completely. Because sometimes the goal is so big that you're just going to give up before you get there. But you got to build something that allows you to make money without it being sweat off of your back every single day.
And to that point, you got to go from being content with being good to wanting to be great, to get your time back, to get your life back, to automate things, to have your, I guess, company on autopilot, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
You got to go from good to being great. You have to be great at something. Honestly, you have to be. And I'm a big advocate for that, because we all know tons of coaches who give their time and their expertise that are actually very legit. They deserve to do that. They have a great following and they deserve that as well. And they're impacting lives. They're changing lives, which is the whole idea. And then there's a handful that aren't. But you have to truly be singularly great at something. Good's just not good enough, right? And that's why I always stay in my lane. Rehabbing is what I do. I went from good to great, right? And I made sure that I put myself in the line of fire all the time. I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've been sued. I've been to court. I've had all of it. As you grow as an entrepreneur, if you haven't had any of this stuff, you're not trying hard enough, right? And I'm not saying you have to get sued to be successful. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is I was willing to go through whatever it took to get me here, because I had an objective that I want my life back. So I'm going to become great at this. Being good gave me the lifestyle. Being great sets me free. And that's how I look at it. And that's how I coach our students and investors. I say, you're so good. dude, we could plus this. And I always say Disney. I studied all Walt Disney's books. And he has that saying called plus it. It's good, but it's not great. We need to plus this. We need to plus, Pinocchio. We need to plus the Lion King, that kind of thing. And I look at that in my life now, and I'm like, this is good. This looks good. I got to plus this. So how can I plus this? Because when I plus it, I'm getting my life back. I'm getting time back. And that's kind of how I correlate that. And that's why when I'm training these investors on rehabbing, I'm like, if you really become great at rehabbing, you're plussing it, you're getting your life back. Because now your business is on autopilot. There's a few things we got to tweak. There's a few people we might have to add to the team. There might be a couple people we got to take away from the team, or cross-train, or they're in the wrong position to begin with, And a lot of times, often, as you were saying, and I'm speaking as an entrepreneur, a lot of entrepreneurs get in their own way because sometimes you do see everything, and then you zero in and get that tunnel vision on something, and you stay there too long. That's all it is. You just stayed in that tunnel too long.
Right.
And then somebody's got to pull you back and say, wait, you totally missed that opportunity real quick, dude. That's like all you, and you miss that, and you're like, oh my God. And that happens. I'm guilty of that as well. When I'm hell bent on something, I'm like up all night burning that candle. That's my sin. And that's when I do my best thinking. I literally will wake up out of bed, come downstairs, write something on the whiteboard, and be like, all right, I want to forget that shit. And my wife's like, nuts. And I'm like, I know.
Yep. Now that's how you move ahead, right? You don't just move day to day. You're always thinking of what can I do to leapfrog like where I'm at, right? And take, whether it's the fix and flipping business, education business, whatever it is, you need to be thinking about, like, how is your life going to get better? How do you grow? How do you get yourself out of a job a little more than you're in it now, each and every day or each and every week? You got to think bigger, right? And sometimes that means getting training, right? Like, would you train people, and you've got an event coming up here soon. I want you to tell us about that. And sometimes it means just surrounding yourself. Like, you're a member of our Investor Fuel Mastermind, and a lot of people come there, and it helps them up their game because they get around people that are talking about thinking bigger and how do they move ahead. And it's kind of like an accountability group too. It forces you to, like, I paid to come to some training, or I paid to be a part of this group, and it forces you to just think bigger because you're like, I got to get a return on this investment, right? So I need to really learn something here. And I've kind of found, if you don't pull yourself out of the day-to-day every once in a while and just use that as a chance to think bigger, then sometimes months and years go by and you haven't advanced, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Tell us about the boot camp that's coming up here in
so this was a camp that we were supposed to do in April, and I had booked. It's called the Boathouse. It's beautiful. It's in Disney Springs in Orlando, and it's probably my favorite restaurant in Orlando, right? It's great, right? So anyway, bottom line is we had it booked in April. COVID happened, so we got rid of that. And then, restaurants started opening up. It is what it is. So I called down there, and I said, I was just down there about a month and a half ago, and I said, I went in there for lunch, and I said, is there any way to still do an event here? And they're like, well, yeah. So I kind of went through the whole, production process of setting that up. And I'm like, let's go for it, because we could still make it virtual at the same time. We could live stream it, right? That's not a big deal. You did it with the last mastermind. So it's very, very doable. You can still do breakout sessions, for those who are still kind of wishy-washy, because there's a lot of coaches that are going to watch this that are wishy-washy about, should I do virtual? I say shoot for a physical and do virtual at the same time, at the end of the day, and just give it a shot. I mean, one of the things that we have a challenge with that you and I were talking about offline is that I only have a max of 50 in the venue because I've got to share the venue with the venue. So the venue's actually open while I have a private dining space. So, which is cool. We cap it at 50 physically, but there's no cap virtually. So we're obviously really well known for that project management camp. We've been teaching that for years, and we've always worked with, like, I would say those types of camps are usually for seasoned investors. A rookie's not going to understand how to project manage. They don't even understand how to acquire a property. So why would I say, hey, you should just come to camp? I'm not that guy. And I often screen people and say, you're not ready for boot camp. Why don't you go learn how to real estate invest and then come to me in a year? I'll be there to help you all day long. And I'll make recommendations, say he's got a good program or she's got a good program. Why don't you go check them out? If you have any questions, reach out to me when you're ready, kind of thing. But then that's one of the reasons I, like you, kind of shied away from the rookies at that time period, because we really were focusing on investors that were doing at least 20 deals a year. And then, our boot camps and academy would make sense to them because now they know what they need. They're experienced enough to know where they're making mistakes. So the boot camp we're putting together for November is the advanced project management camp. And this is going to be a camp where we're breaking down what the construction model looks like for any investor who's doing more than 20 deals, what each person is, how many people you need on staff, what their SOPs are for that staff, what are the KPIs for each individual person on that staff, And then what kind of CRM systems need to be built in? And basically, how does a construction company work, right? Because oftentimes, especially when I consult clients, I see firsthand that they're really good at the acquisitions and they're really good with private funding, or funding is not even an issue. And they actually analyze deals pretty well. And then that property is purchased and they just wait. And oftentimes I've seen some of our clients will wait 30, 40 days before they even start rehab. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're wasting too much time. Time is money. And they really are dependent on like the contractor to get their process started. And I said, no. It's your house. You have to start the process. This is your company. And what first thing we say is, what's your construction division look like? And like, we don't really have one. And that's what this camp is all about, is we're going to map process the entire business. And it's really a financial camp. We're going to talk about draw management, percentages, things of that nature, how to make sure your books make sense. So it is for the seasons. And a rookie it'd be way too much for them. They're not even at that level yet. Trying to get a dealer here, that's what they need. Get your couple deals in.
This sounds like this is more for owners, or if somebody was bringing somebody on to be
this
like
is for
a project
teams.
manager.
This is for company teams. So if you have a project manager, you bring your project manager. If you have a construction coordinator and a project manager and a bookkeeper, bring the company. This is one of those camps where as a company, it's like I'm going to do 2 days of consulting for 50 companies plus whoever's online. But we're really going to tell you guys, and we're going to break it down. And everybody who shows up to camp is going to come up and share as well. What is your current model? And it's going to be an open, like a mastermind. It's going to be an open dialogue. Like, we're going to break this down together. And I want everybody else to see that you're not alone, that all of you are extremely close, and you're just making simple mistakes because nobody really is in construction, unless you obviously came from construction. That's different. There's a lot of GCs that became investors like I did, not a big deal. But this is mainly for the investors who need to learn what GCs do and how construction actually operates, for them to say, oh, and the greatest feeling in the world is when they had that aha moment, their head goes back, and I call them on it. And I said, okay, what was that? Go with that. Is that because something's happening right now on this project, or your last project, or you didn't do this yet? And it's always all the above. They're like, yeah, dude, I got a phone call to make. They go out in the hallway and they do their thing. And that's what it's all about. It's actionable advice that you do now. This isn't something you just read a book and say, okay, good luck, next flip. It's like, no, dude, your flips need this now. Your company needs this now. Your bottom line is bleeding now. So those are the type of camps that we run. I mean, that's what it's all about. We have the online academy. That's really for the rookies who want to learn on their own. It's e-learning. You log in, you get your credentials, take your time. If you have any questions, I have a private project manager tool that they can just text us with all the students can, and I can answer questions for them here and there. But that's more the novice route. But our camps are extremely elite camps. I mean, you are sitting there and you're going to have a headache for 2 days. And I tell people, bring Advil. You're going to have a headache because I'm forcing you to think. We have an exercise where I hit them with a timeline. I said, we go on the board. I write this huge timeline out. I said, I want all of you to take 5 minutes, go on your laptops, find your most problematic flip you've recently done that's complete. And I say, I want all the numbers on your timeline from the moment you got the lead, to the moment you made the sale, to the moment it's under contract, to the moment you closed, to the moment you started construction, to the moment you did punches, from punches to all the way out. And we're going to put days in between everything. Some of these people realize they've had a project 150 days, 190 days, 97 days, and their rehab budget was $30K.
Yeah.
And then they sit there and go, okay. And they start seeing where they're missing. Where's the problem? Which section of this process is your problem? And it's always in setting up the job on time. It's not even getting the job started. It's setting it up so that project management is 10 times easier, right? All the things you deal with as a rehabber that are problematic is because you didn't plan for them. And in rehabbing, in all the construction, not just rehab, in construction, you have to be predictive and proactive, not reactive. If you're reacting, it's costing you time and money, and that's one of your key KPIs, right? So you have to be predictive and proactive. And the only way to predict your problems is if you plan, if you do the risk wheel. Shit, I think it's still behind me. You have to look at the risk on every single project and say, okay, what are my challenges here? And attack those before demo day one so that you can predict when that hurdle comes. There's so much to it. There really, really is. And I enjoy doing it. And I learn every flip I still do. I'm learning. I'm like, I can't believe I missed that.
Yeah, and there's a couple things, and I think you would probably agree with this. So here's what's coming, guys. For those of you that have been around for a couple cycles, like Roddy and I have, there's really a couple things. Like, truthfully, almost every house I've done for the last 5 or 6 years has been my biggest strategy has been wholetailing, right? It's worked really well, but it works really well in a seller's market. So when the market starts to shift, there's more inventory on the market. Now, right now, if you have inventory, there's so little inventory on the market that it doesn't have to be a perfect house, and it doesn't have to be, you can get more for it than even if it's imperfect, right? But when the market shifts, inventory starts to build up. What happens is you need to shift more to quality. Like price is not as it's not as easy to sell based on price.
True.
So, or imperfect houses. Now, when you have a lot, basically when you have more competition, you have to find a way to stand out, and that's going to be through putting out a nicer product, ultimately. So your rehabs are probably going to get heavier. Right?
See, you said that. That was key right there. Putting out a nicer product. Very rarely does an investor actually say that back to me. I usually say that to them. And I'll go into people's markets. I'll walk their properties with them, and I'll sit there and go, so this is, I go, show me what your average rehab is. Oh, we do 35,000 or 100,000. I said, great. Show me one that's recently done. So I want to see what 100,000 looks like. I'm not passing judgment. I'm there to help. So I look at it. I walk the house. I look at the quality, right? I look at the quality chosen materials. I look at the design look. I look at a lot of things, and I realize your 100 looks like garbage. Your 100 looks like you put 30K into this thing. And that's another piece to rehabbing is quality. You have to have a quality standard. Right. And that's across the board. And quality is another KPI in construction, right? The KPIs in construction are change orders, budgets, timeframes, quality, and sub-inventory. And there's a little sixth one that hides that no one pays attention to called safety. And you have to understand that all 6 of those affect every single project you do, and you have to account for them. Quality is a major piece of the element. Everybody's like, oh, I got an awesome deal. I'm going to make $105,000 on this deal. The ARV is 550, 650, whatever. And I'm like, then the quality better be there. You know, you're used to doing a $50,000 rehab. You just hit a gold mine with this acquisition. Good job, awesome. But you step it up now because this rehab needs you to step it up. You can't do the same rehab you've been doing. This one needs to be a little bit better, more quality materials, better craftsmanship, quality install, and some of the shit you let fly before you can't let fly here because it won't get purchased. And it's interesting because if you as an individual, and I'm talking about an entrepreneur again, it's nothing to do with investing. If you don't have self-quality standards for what you do, you'll never be elite because elite is excellence. That means you're just, this is what I do and I won't accept anything else, right? You have to have that quality standard about yourself and the way you live for that to translate into your business and how you do business, right? If you have an expectation of yourself, you're going to have an expectation of other people, but you can't have it the other way around. I can't expect Mike to be great and I suck, right? I can't cut corners, but expect you not to cut corners. That's what leadership's all about. So when you have that excellence in your mind and you have a process and you have this quality standard, that will translate extremely well into your business. And oftentimes I tell investors, consider it this way. Let's say you say, hey, Roddy, can you invest? I need 50 grand for gap funding, something, private funding. Come in, I'll give you whatever. And I say, okay, show me your deliverables. What am I investing in? Think of it that way. If you can't show me anything, right, that's one thing. But if you show me this and you say this is a $100,000 rehab and it looks like a $35,000 rehab, I'm not giving you 50K. Because I'm like, dude, your standard is, sorry, man, I love you, but I don't like what you're doing here, man. I don't want to put my money there. I'm not comfortable with this. Yep. Because you don't have a quality standard. So does everything I said make sense? I mean, that's just how I think.
At the end of the day, I think for sure. I think that's insightful for sure. And I think where we're going in the market, like I don't know how fast we're going to get there, but the market's turning. There's no doubt about it, right? So once the government stops subsidizing everything, like eventually people are going to start to lose their houses. Like things are going to happen. Or truthfully, and I don't think it's even going to be as bad as it was on the last downturn. I don't know what you think. Nobody has a crystal ball. But I'll say this. A lot of people have a lot more equity now going into this next downturn, and they can still sell maybe at a discount and get out and still have made some decent money over the years. So my point is when you go into a market shift and it becomes more of a buyer's market, you know, you're going to have to put out a better quality product because
you really do.
You're going to have a lot more competition. And I'll say this, even for wholesalers out there, really two things. One is wholesaling gets harder in a buyer's market. And the reason is when the market shifts a lot, and you've seen it here through the COVID stuff, you know, a lot of credit dries up. So hard money's harder to get or other money's harder to get. But FHA loans and other homeowner stuff, because the government props all that stuff up, and they probably always will, is still easy to get. There's still demand for homes to live in, right? Instead of investment properties necessarily. And even if you're continuing to wholesale, I'll tell you what, there's nothing worse, and you guys know this, than a wholesaler that puts out bullshit numbers and they don't even know. Like, I think the best wholesalers are the ones that understand how to rehab because they know who their client is. They know what their client expects. They know how to evaluate a rehab properly, right? They're not just like, you know, I estimated $12 a square foot or some number they just pulled out of their ear or whatever.
In Espanol, we call that culo.
What does that mean?
Your ass.
Oh, okay. But anyway,
You laugh.
so hey, real fast, we were talking about your boot camp coming up. So it's November 12th and 13th, right? How do people find out more about that?
Oh, that's easy, man. They
What's
can
the
go to
link?
our website. They can go to our website. Here, I'll type it in if you want.
Well,
Probably
just
easier.
say it on the show too, because most people will be
It's
listening after the fact.
okay. So it's www.therehabdepot.com/rehab academy or boot camp. There's just so many different pages, but just go there. You'll see the link, therehabdepot.com, and you'll see our boot camp. Sign up for it. It'll be good for everybody to continue learning. This is the time for you to get prepared for 2021. I was talking with a couple of our lenders that we have partnerships with here as a company, and their data is showing that come March next year, that's when some of the foreclosures are finally going to meet the market.
Yeah,
So if that's the case, you got 2 quarters to get ready. That's how I
yeah,
look at it. And construction does take time to evolve. It's not something you just master today. It takes time. You got to
yeah,
cultivate that. I mean, and that's another reason why, with us, I tell people all the time, people are like, why don't you have sales reps? I'm like, because we don't sell. We're here for life. You come to us whenever you need us because it's based on where you're at in your career. When you're ready for us, you know who to go to. We're here. And
yeah.
that's the beauty of our business model. It's you ever need any help, we're over here in the corner. Just let us know.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is there's basically some limited opportunities to get together and learn for your academies now. So I don't know if you even know when your next one is, and clearly this one is a reschedule from April because of all the COVID crap.
Yeah.
So if you guys have been waiting, I know a lot of people have been waiting to have a good event to go to, right? People are like gearing up now. I know
Mm-hmm.
literally yesterday I booked like 3 flights. I'm just like, we've been kind of tame, and I'm like, man, I'm going here, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like, let's go. And like, I'm ready to just get out. I know a lot of you are ready for that too. I'm not saying be stupid about it, still be safe, all that stuff, but make sure you don't miss out on some quality events. And folks like Roddy, folks like our Investor Fuel Mastermind, people that are having events and high quality stuff, like through this process, I promise you one thing that we've been thinking about is how do we take it to another level and make things better, better, better. So I
Yep.
think you're gonna any of these types of events you go to through folks like Roddy, he's stepping up his game because that's how evolution works. Like we've part of this process was not just like I'll have to sit around and wait till I can teach again. It's like how do I make this so good
Mm-mm.
that it's undeniable that anybody should come, right?
No,
Cool.
and that's exactly what it is. It's not like I said when we started working with the buyers this year. That was something that we never thought of 6 years ago. It's
Yeah.
just the evolution of what's happening, and you start looking at the averages of all the challenges that you keep hearing about, and you're like, all right, we got to put something together for that. And that takes time as well, as to put together some kind of course or curriculum and then be able to
Yeah.
teach on that. What we do is very real. When I say we, I mean all coaches. It takes really some time to say, I know how to do this, but how can I convey it and teach it? That's a challenge.
Yeah.
And it takes time, and we put a lot of effort in. And like I said, it's usually burning that midnight oil is when I'm putting in my effort,
Hey, you just got muted, buddy, somehow.
if you will, so that it makes sense. You got to dumb it down still.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, buddy. Well, thanks for joining me today. Good to see you as always.
Thank you. That was fun.
Awesome.
It was fun learning it was fun watching you try to learn how to go live late in your stage of your career.
Well, hey, it's just new technology. So that's a little
That's
inside
funny.
joke for those of you that didn't realize that I forgot to record for the first 10 minutes of the show. But so guys, this is what we're going to do going forward. We have this professional real estate investor show. We host them on FlipNerd.com, and we go live in the professional real estate investor Facebook group, which you can find by going to FlipNerd.com/professional. If you're not already a member of the group, we're going to be doing these live on average once a week. Sometimes we might double up and do a couple in a week to catch up on inventory. That's one of the challenges with live is, when you're not live, you could record 4 shows in a day and do all that stuff. When you're live, we try to make it as predictable as possible. But if you're a member of the group, there's a lot of great discussion going on here, and we're trying to take it to another level. Still just getting started with
You
really
know what I
people that
like?
are already actively doing deals, helping one another. And there's so many Facebook groups. This is never going to be a Facebook group with 100,000 people in it that every day somebody's asking where the light switch is. Like, this is people that are experienced and seasoned and helping one another. And what were you going to say, Roddy?
No, I was gonna say actually I enjoyed. I like being on calls like this where it's conversational. Sometimes you come to people's podcasts. It's podcast, right?
Right.
But being in the group that this is meant for, we all have earned the right to be in the group, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So this is the kind of thing I like, the dialogue. Let's just talk openly about what's going on, because I know I can relate to a lot and other people can relate to me. We were all in this at the end of the day together. And that's why I enjoyed this type of conversation, because it is a podcast, but you know what? It's actually just a live conversation, which I like. I like that vibe.
Yep. Cool. So everybody, thanks for joining us on this first episode of the Professional Real Estate Investor Group. Again, you can find all these shows. We're running 3 shows right now. We have FlipNerd Real Estate Investing Secrets, which has evolved a lot over the years. That's my first show that I started 6.5 years ago. That was more of an interview style like this. It's evolved into me sharing more quick tips or some thoughts or things that are on my mind and things I've experienced. The Investor Fuel Mastermind show, where I interview members of my Investor Fuel Mastermind. Roddy's actually a member of the Investor Fuel Mastermind as well. And if you haven't yet checked out investorfuel.com, you should. It's just an amazing group of caring people. And then this show, the Professional Real Estate Investor Show, where we're interviewing a lot of other people in the industry to kind of bring to you what's working now, what's not working, and hopefully learn and grow together. So you can find all of them on FlipNerd.com, though, FlipNerd.com/shows. Appreciate you guys a bunch. See you on the next show.
Later, guys.
Thanks for joining me on today's episode. There are 3 ways I help successful real estate investors take their businesses and their lives to the next level. First, if you're in search of a community of successful real estate investors that help one another take their businesses to the next level, and a life-changing community of lifelong friends, please learn more about my Investor Fuel Real Estate Mastermind by visiting investorfuel.com. If you'd like a cutting-edge solution for the very best done-for-you lead generation on the planet, where we're handling the lead generation for many of America's top real estate investors, please learn more at theinvestormachine.com. And lastly, if you're interested in a free online community of professional real estate investors that isn't full of spam, solicitations, and newbie questions, please join my free Professional Real Estate Investor Facebook group by visiting flipnerd.com/professional.